Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Jonathan Silver, and he's the CEO over at Engage People. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be here, and thanks for having me on your show.
All right, Jonathan. So I got to tell you this right now, and you do not know this about me, but loyalty points, I'm so bad at them, and I just have never been good. And I have some friends that they get into this, they know how to do these things better, and then they tell me all these stories, and I'm just lost. First off, before we get into Engage People and everything else, how'd you get into the loyalty program or loyalty space in general? Where'd that come for you?
Quite by accident. Back in my childhood days, I was a computer programmer. I was going to do my CPA and be an accountant. Mm-hmm. And I was coding for a company that got sold to another loyalty company. They asked me to come for 6 months and stayed 10 years. And I've been doing this ever since. So, it's kind of, accident.
What kept you in the space? What drew you to it to stay there?
So it's a fascinating industry because you deal with companies across all industries at a strategic level. And so you get to see the way different companies in different industries handle their markets. And you're a very powerful tool for engaging participants and members and driving real measurable results. And so it ends up being challenging and fun at the same time. And there's, very few things where, over my career, I've worked with major banks, automotive, telcos, airlines, hotels, mining, food and beverage. And so you get to see.
Did you say mining?
Yes, I've done a loyalty program for a sales channel for a mining company.
Wow. I don't want to assume here. Maybe let's go a little bit further, but like benefits of a loyalty program. I don't want to assume that everybody knows because it's still, even though we've heard of I'll speak for myself, even though I've heard of them, I've been part of them, I've never really, for my company, we haven't done anything like that on our end. So what are some of the benefits that you've seen? Why does this matter?
So at the end of the day, if you think about if you're a company, you spend a fortune acquiring new customers. And the ability to engage and retain them is key to your profitability and success. Now, a loyalty program won't offset any product issues or service issues.
Of course.
But it does give you a little bit more runway when things go bad. And so what happens is if we do it right, we can create an emotional connection between the participant or the member of the program and the sponsor. And then in exchange for that, we get a lot of data. And then that data can be used to make sure that the program that's being offered to the member or the offers and the benefits are relevant. The more you can do that, the more you can engage your member, the more loyal to your product they will be. And the more they will spend, and the more you get feedback as to what you need to do to make your product better, to keep your customers happier and more engaged. And so it is a very cost-effective way to drive your member engagement and to drive better utilization of your products.
And you already answered one of my questions, was the type of industry. So, would I be wrong to say any industry, any type of business could benefit from this in some way, shape, or form in your experience? Am I off on that?
Very much so. Look, Engage, we focus a lot on financial institutions and hospitality, but every industry does it. And it ranges from, if you think about it, if you take a step back, you can have a punch card for your local coffee shop, all the way to a major U.S. airline and everything in between. And so it's just it comes in many forms, and it's everywhere, and it's ubiquitous. And when you do it right, it will drive measurable results for your company.
What's the pushback you get when somebody's thinking about a loyalty program or something else, especially you're talking to the board or you're talking to this, let's say, executive team, and there's, obviously very rarely is everybody going to agree, right? So what would be the pushback that you'd get?
So I think the biggest challenge, historically, this comes out of the marketing department, not the finance.
Oh.
And it's very, very important that you start with both. Marketing's got to execute and drive it, but finance needs to be on board for determining, here's what it's going to cost, here's my ROI, here's how I'm going to measure it. Because the challenge is if you don't do that up front, and if you don't do that properly, it looks like it's an expense to the business. Where the benefits, it's hard to go, hey, we spent X dollars on a loyalty program and my sales went up, but I can't tie the two together unless I did it properly up front. So the big one is making sure we have the right financial metrics and then the right behavioral metrics that you're looking for the member. And
that makes a lot of sense, because if you don't do that, then essentially it's not going to be tied into the revenue or the profit of that. And then how do you make a decision going forward, right?
And then what happens is, 5 years down the road, there's a new person on board and they went in the conversation the first time and they were like, what is this? Why are we doing this? So it's really important and look, most companies are much more disciplined and structured around how they run their programs. And the metrics have got a lot better over my career.
Size of company. Talk to me about that. Is this good for a small business, only enterprise? Is this talk to me about that a bit.
Look, the bigger you are, the more you can do, right? You have more data, you have more access to technology and infrastructure to do more things, and you can also move the needle more. But at the same time, the cost of implementing a program on a small retailer has plummeted. And so the opportunities exist right now for everybody to go, hey, look, I have an ability to identify my customers, keep them loyal and reward them. And it's just how we do it. And it's not always just points programs, right? It could be, free things, free services that you get for being a loyal customer. People just think about airlines and their hotel points and their bank credit card points. But
fair. That's fair. I feel like those are the ones that many times get our attention, right? Like those are the ones on your email or this or that or whatever.
But Amazon Prime is a loyalty program.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, you're right. Huh.
Yeah. I got you to pay a fee for it, but in exchange for it, I've given you benefit for being a loyal customer. And so it comes in many shapes and formats, and it's very much around what am I trying to achieve? And if you think about if you're in the automotive industry, my loyalty program will very much be, hey, your lease is up, I'm going to give you some loyal customer discounts and some stuff in service. It's not a high-frequency purchase. So it's very different to my credit card loyalty or my airline loyalty.
That makes a lot of sense. So when you first go into a company, and there's going to be a lot of business owners, a lot of executives, a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this, and maybe this is shaking up their thought process a little bit. Like, does my company need a loyalty company program? Sounds good. It's been like a what if kind of deal. Like, how do you start your process? Those dialogues and whether or not it makes sense for a company. Like, how do you normally start those conversations?
Very much around cost of acquisition per member, cost of retention, and the value of a loyal member versus someone who's infrequent. So if we start building parameters around, and it's hard to do this without visuals, but think about a standard bell curve. So I got my top customers on the far right. Those are loyal. I got to make sure they're happy. But how do I take that middle big curve and shift it to the right? And what's that worth? And then it's around what data do we have? What can we track? What is important to your members? And we go through that process. And that helps us design the success metrics and the measurable results that we're looking for in a program. And at least then you can build a construct that says, look, we've done this here, we've done this there, this is what we've seen. If we apply it this way, this is why it'll work for you guys. And then you're doing a lot of testing and learning, and you keep adapting until you've got a working that makes sense.
What are some of the elements or processes or thought processes, I don't know, that you've seen that have really made some loyalty programs just kind of knock it out of the park? Like, what are some of those things?
It's really very much around knowing your members and finding out what's valuable to them and giving them that. And so the people who've done the best job around it, definitely airlines and hotels. You think about not your vacation traveler who travels every 2 years, but your business travelers and your frequent flyers. The status and the benefits that come with status are more important than the actual miles that are earned. And you'll hear these stories about people, coming towards the end of the year, going and taking a trip because they're short 2-night stay in a hotel to get status for the next year or thereafter.
Oh, that's so true. No, that's a thing. I'm not in that case, but I've had that conversation. Right. You're right. That's a great example.
Right. And then, there's a Canadian pharmaceutical drugstore company that has done an incredible job with their data and making sure that the offers that you receive are relevant and meaningful to you. And so in both those cases, one's big retail, one's hospitality, what you see is a structure and a process that drives meaningful value to the different segments of their base.
What does the other side of that question look like when somebody's missing the mark? Like, is it, I would assume it has something to do with, like, they're not giving their client something they want. They're picking a rabbit out of a hat on, like, what they want, or, like, maybe the design of the program was wrong. Like, I feel like there's a lot of variables, but...
A ton. Like, the biggest one we always see is expiring of points. Finance will go, hey, people aren't active, let's expire the points, and you always get a negative backlash, and all the goodwill you've done leading up to that disappears. And so when I come back to where programs fail is on the not having the right financial metrics and value proposition and ROI. And so whenever we see a company make a decision around limiting redemption or throttling the value of points or expiring points.
Oh, it just gives the other end, it has the opposite feel, doesn't it? It kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like, really? Like, they're going to, really? Like, I had these points and now they're gone? What?
Yep. Right. And they'll, what's the thing? People talk 7 or 10 people, whatever the number is, bad things, and one person, good things. So, so that's why when, coming back to what we started about, understanding the financial metrics are so important because it drives your value, drives all your decision processes around, okay, this is costing me X. Here's my return. When I'm struggling, I should actually juice up my loyalty program, not cut.
Yeah. I see this, and it makes a lot of sense. You just took me down memory lane. I'm not going to call out any brands, but to where I was like, after they did that, I don't know what it was. I kind of felt it, but then after a while, it kind of made its way out of its rotation, and then I got an ad for something else. That's okay. Pun intended. That's not even a pun, but my loyalty went down. I'm working through some things here with you today, Jonathan.
No, it's fine. Look, I've even seen it irrelevant offers.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've got a program, I also won't mention names, but I've never bought any of their fattening products. And every time they say, hey, come try this for 3 straight days and we'll give you whatever. And I'm like, well, I've been buying stuff from you for 5 years. You've never seen me try that once. Why do you think now I'm going to come and do it 3 times? And so that's where so that's why understanding your customer and understanding how to change offers to me relevant is so key.
What is it like in this space, just as a CEO and running a business? This is a pretty, I would imagine, you tell me if I'm off, this is a pretty competitive space, right? Like loyalty programs and things. Am I off on that?
Yes. Yeah, so it's very competitive. We compete with lots of companies doing it. A lot of customers do it in-house. It is a very strange space in that even though there's a bunch of people competing in the space, we all know each other. We're all friends. And so we have a lot of competition and cooperation along the way.
That's interesting. So it's a little collegial in that everybody, like, people know each other, and there's like, I get it. Especially, I feel like, especially when going after like big accounts, you work with banks, you work with retail, so you kind of, at some point, depending, you're going after these sizable companies, right? And it's obvious. I'm sure you work with enterprise, but do you work with small businesses or middle market?
Our clients are. So we focused on a different product recently. We have built a pay with points network. So the ability to use your points at retail as a form of payment. So a lot of people are familiar with Amazon, where you can go onto Amazon and you can use your bank's credit card points at checkout. So we're building out a network like that where you can, you integrate with Engage, and we can let you use your points at Amazon, at some gas stations and some other retailers, and we have a whole bunch of other retailers coming on board. And that's been our focus as a company for that, and we have a platform business as well. But so our clients are large banks, large hospitality, larger retailers, and payment processors.
I get it. So how does the loyalty program work? Like, how does that work? Or loyalty network, excuse me. I'm looking at your website. Like, how does that work?
So think about if you're a credit card holder at Acme Bank and you've earned all these points. Today, historically, you've been able to redeem for merchandise, gift cards, and travel. maybe cash. In our world, you walk into a gas station.
Yeah.
And you tap your card and it says, hey, for X number of points, do you want to save 50 cents a gallon? Or you're on shopping on Amazon and you go to check out and it says, hey, you have so many points. Do you want to use your points for this transaction?
Yeah. And on the other side of that, so then presumably the other side of that would be like that gas station or someone else, they would have had to join that loyalty network. Am I off on that?
Yeah. So what happens, our value proposition to our banking clients is one integration with us. You get all of my retailers. My value proposition to my retailers and merchant partners is one integration into Engage, and you get all of our banks. And every time we add one to the other side, the network just keeps, to either side, the network keeps growing. And so it's heavy lifting to get going, but once it's in place, it's spectacular. What we do see, so, if you think about in our world, I've got three constituents. I have a bank or the loyalty program, because we do more than banks now. I have the member and I have the retailer. So for the loyalty program sponsor, you now have more ways for your members to engage with your program and to use their points on a more frequent basis. So it drives a higher member engagement and higher loyalty back to your product. For our merchant partner, it drives back to incremental sales to you, new customers, and a lower transaction cost. And member, we've democratized your points in a way that's meaningful and valuable to you. So when you're going out and you tap your card on the POS and it says, hey, do you want to use your points for this? You're like, holy crap, that was cool. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, you're like, I think I will. Thank you, right?
Yeah. And what we see is a massive, massive uptake of this and a huge member engagement, which drives more loyalty back to the sponsor and more loyalty and frequency back to the retailer.
Yeah, this is great. Well, Jonathan, man, this has been an education for me and hopefully for my audience as well on loyalty programs, loyalty network, the space in general, the benefits of starting a program for your business. I mean, we covered a lot of ground here. That being said, if somebody wants to learn more about Engaged People, I mean, how do they do that or follow the journey?
Best way is just engagepeople.com. There's a contact us. Happy to talk to people and help out where we can. And when we can't, we steer you to the right people. Like I said, it's a small industry. We know everybody. So we do a lot of, hey, we're not the right guys, but talk to these people. So happy to do that for people as well.
Amazing. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll put the links into the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over and check out engagepeople.com. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Jonathan, thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you so much for your time, and nice chatting with you today.